We're
gang.
doing a panel. Hi, everybody. What's up?
What's up, Animefest?
Hello. Oh my goodness, it's an art panel.
I know.
It's art time. Hello, everyone. You are at the 5 Rules of Art panel. It is the 5 rules, right?
It is the 5 rules.
Excellent. I'm bad at numbers. But you are at the 5 Rules of Art panel hosted by Micah Solasad.
Mm-hmm.
And I am IU.
Mhm.
We are going to talk about art.
We are.
It's going to be a good time. So a couple things for this panel. If you're here in person and you would like to ask us a question, you need to go to the purple mic.
The purple microphone.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to ask a question, you do not want to go to the purple microphone, you can also tweet us. So tweet us at Hello Pineapple. We will be checking over the course. So if you want to send us any questions at all over the course of this panel, you can also shoot your questions there on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, shout out to the chat. Hi, Pineapple Gang.
Hey, Pineapple Gang in the chat.
All right. So hi. Ayu Micah Ayu. We are Pineapple Studio.
Mm-hmm.
We make art of all sorts. We have like a comic. We stream artwork. We do a lot of art pieces.
Mm-hmm. 1 second. 1 second.
Oh no, that's not up yet.
That's not up yet.
Yes,
well,
it's just. Yes.
Gotcha.
Oh, you have.
Yeah.
Oh, see, he's the one who's prepared. He's the one who's.
It's okay.
Prepared.
I have slides prepared. That's okay. Why not?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Actually, we should probably introduce ourselves a little more thoroughly before we jump in.
We will. Well,
okay.
That's
he is so prepared. It's almost embarrassing how prepared he is compared to me, but you're going to learn about that pretty soon, too.
To be fair, this is a panel that I sometimes run by myself, so I have a system going and have not communicated any of that to my partner here.
Well, also,
so
he's a planner, and I'm a fly by my seat of my pantser.
So anyway, hi. Welcome to the 5 Rules of Art panel. This is a panel specifically for creatives who are good at starting projects, but not necessarily great at finishing them. How many of you can relate with that? I know I certainly can. I'm very good at it, in fact. But shall we introduce ourselves?
Oh, did you make a slide?
I did make a slide.
You're a genius.
So, hi, my name is Micah, Micah Solasad. You probably know me best for my work in anime and video games. I'm Soul and Soul Eater, Yuno in Black Clover, Yuri Plasetsky in Yuri on Ice, Yukine in Noragami, Kaido in The Disastrous Life of Psyche K, Best Genist in My Hero Academia, all that kind of stuff. You can look it up later. And you are?
I am Ayu. You probably know me best for directing anime dubs. I directed the dub for Assassination Classroom, which just wrapped on Toonami recently, as well as The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. Goodness, so many other things. The Quintessential Quintuplets.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this season, I'm doing Life of an Ordinate Guy who's reincarnated as a Total Fantasy Knockout.
Yeah.
Woo! Isekai, what you gonna do, baby? But also, I am the writer and colorist for our Pineapple Studio team.
Yeah, together we run a media circle called Pineapple Studio.
Wow.
We make art, stories, and stuff. In fact, speaking of stuff, if you stick around to the end of this panel, we're going to actually be revealing for the first time, exclusively here at Animefest, our brand new project.
Our newest stuff.
Yes, it's a project we've been working on since late last year, and we're really excited to share it with you. So you guys get a sneaky peeky at that project.
Yeah.
All right. So I believe we've covered this. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, please feel free to tweet us at Hello Pineapple, and we'll be sure to get on that immediately. Oops, I jumped the gun. You may have also seen our work floating around Artist Alley tables.
Yes.
We do a lot of artwork for other voice actors as well, doing art prints and commissions and things like that. Or maybe you even saw us here at Animefest and picked up a comic of ours.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Now, let's go back in time a little. Long before we discovered our passion for acting, my first love was drawing. Do we have any fellow artists here in the room or in the chat? Any fellow artists?
See a lot of hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about writers? Any authors in the room?
Ooh, yes.
Excellent. Musicians? Any fellow musicians?
Ooh, a lot of hands.
Love
Excellent.
that. Or maybe even crafters, people who love cosplay or doing arts and crafts.
Yep. Love it.
I see you guys, and I love it. Now, I believe that every creative type has a defining moment where they discovered that art was their thing. Do you remember? Do you have a specific moment?
I think so. I remember I saw a picture
Hmm.
and then I copied the picture. I just like drew the exact same thing.
Hmm.
And in my mind and in my heart, when I looked at my redraw of the original, I went, I'm a genius. This is so good.
Uh-huh.
I'm such a good artist. Never mind, I just copied someone else's drawing. Never mind that years later, looking back on it, it's a very bad copy.
Right.
But in that moment, I was like, I've done it.
Mhm.
I've really done it.
Yeah. I remember when I was in preschool, and our teacher sort of sat us down at these long tables, set down a stack of, I'm going to date myself, a stack of printer paper, the one with the perforated edges and the green and white lines.
Ooh,
Yeah.
old school.
And gave us a bunch of washable crayons because we were monsters. And told us, all right, everyone, it's drawing time. So feel free to just spend the rest of the hour just drawing. And I was like, girl, what the hell are you talking about? Exact words, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. Verbatim.
Such language for such a young child.
And I was like, I didn't know what that was. So like I watched everyone else start, scribbling down all this kind of weird stuff. So I was like, oh, I guess we're just making pictures, I suppose. So I started scribbling my own stuff down, scrolling it out on the paper, and I immediately got lost in it. I don't know how much time had passed, but when I looked up, there were multiple sheets of paper that I had just drawn over, and all the kids had gone. They were gone. And I looked up, and my parents are patiently waiting at the doorway, talking with my teacher. And now, were they works of art? Were they masterpieces? Absolutely not. Did it look like a scene straight from a horror movie where it's like children's scribble of like, I love mommy and daddy and creepy smiley face? Absolutely.
I've seen Stranger Things season 2.
Exactly. But I had imagined these things in my mind, and in mere moments, I had wished them into existence on paper. It took physical form. And I don't think I fully realized it in that moment, but there was something deep inside me that just knew in that moment I would be taking the act of creating. I would take art with me for the rest of my life. Now, over the years, I learned that art is a powerful tool, that mere lines on paper have the power to not only express emotion, but invoke it. I mean, we're here at an anime convention, and how many of us have been moved to tears by watching an anime series? It is incredible that mere lines on paper can evoke such powerful emotions out of us. I learned that when I was a little kid. I remember the day that I learned that the Brontosaurus, one of my favorite dinosaurs, was not real. Scientists published an article that stated that the Brontosaurus was not an actual member of the dinosaur family. And I felt so betrayed in that moment. But words failed me, absolutely failed me in that moment. And so I expressed it in the only way I knew how, with this drawing.
It still touches me today. It's so beautiful.
Now, I'm happy to say that science has now, in the last decade, retracted that statement.
Maybe there is a Brontosaurus.
Making this analogy absolutely useless, but...
You got to do a redraw where it says,
yes, exactly. But I'm happy to say that the Brontosaurus is now officially back as a member of the dinosaur family, so hooray for dinosaurs.
And the dinosaur panel now.
Exactly. Long live dinosaurs.
I don't think the dinosaurs actually live. No, it's okay. Keep going.
No, see, they power our machines.
That's true.
Through oil,
they do.
And we make plastics out of it.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go. They're still with us today. But either way, I believe that regardless of where you are in your art journey, or if you are new to art, if you've been here for a long time creating, uh, one of the greatest disservices you can do as an artist, that we can do, is not share our work with the world. So if someone that you know, or if you're that someone who's really good at starting projects but isn't super great at finishing them, this panel is for you. Here are the 5 rules of art that we create by. Starting with number 1. Oops.
Huh.
Rule number 1: tools are not talent. I think many of us get trapped in this idea that if only I had the right tools, then I would be a real artist. If I had the right paper, the professional manuscript comic paper, or maybe microns or Copics, perhaps, maybe then I'd be a real artist. And Intuos. Don't stop at traditional.
Yeah.
Maybe if I go
Yeah,
digital,
yeah.
then I'll be a real artist.
Gotta buy the right software,
Mhm.
the right hardware.
The full Adobe suite, etc.,
Mhm.
etc.
Don't buy the full Adobe suite.
Don't.
Don't.
Sure, the right tools can make your art flourish if you know how to use them, and it could possibly make your work easier. But it doesn't necessarily make your work better by default. In fact, sometimes having fancy tools gets in the way. Uh, I know from experience times that I have bought really expensive art gear, and instead of using them, the pressure to make very good art in them became a burden.
It's so much. You spend so much on like a notebook, and now the drawings in it have to be good.
Mm-hmm. When I was in middle school, I bought a leather-bound hardback cover sketchbook. It was really nice, really slick. I drew maybe about 2 or 3 drawings in them to this day. I still have it. I pulled it out the other day, looked at it, and went, maybe not today. It's very difficult to work under that pressure. Ultimately, you want to create things with tools that make you feel comfortable, that are accessible, that invite you to draw rather than put you under pressure to make masterpieces within them. I heard someone once say, "Do not mistake the paintbrush for the painter." As you get more experienced as an artist, you'll be able to experiment and upgrade your tool set to your own specs. After all, drawing, making art, creating, a lot easier when you are comfortable. So, if tools or talent is not defined by tools, then how do you get better?
It's a good question. I would suggest just go at it with whatever you have on hand. Like looking at your original Brontosaurus image, that's just whatever your teacher gave you to work with. And oftentimes, I would say that probably the most practice I got drawing was my homework and tests and notes while I was in school with a ballpoint pen. And I know I'm not the only one. Don't lie to me. But you practice with what you have in front of you, and as you get better with the tools you have, you also get smarter about the tools that you might need or want. And that's the best thing, that eventually, if you do wind up buying very nice, very expensive tools, you'll at least know what it is you're looking for by the time you do that. I know people, for instance, if they want to get into music, will buy the best guitar on the market only to discover that they're not really that into guitar. And maybe they'd rather be playing piano or violin or something. And now you've got a really nice guitar that you're not doing anything with. Or oftentimes it's a nice guitar, but it turns out it wasn't the right fit for you, or the size or the shape or the sound even isn't what you want, and you don't know that until you become better at it.
Yeah, truly. We have a friend who owns a very expensive, very slick Gibson electric guitar. First guitar he ever had. He learned he doesn't like playing guitar. He likes keyboards instead. Now he has a very expensive electric guitar as a wall decoration. And sure, it's really nice.
Yeah, that's great.
You didn't have to spend upwards of $1,000 on an expensive guitar right off the bat.
Start with what's in front of you. You've got pencils, you've got pens, you've got a stack of printer paper. That's the stuff that you're going to learn with If you have a tablet, some of them are pretty cheap. Get a cheap tablet, get some cheap software, and try it out and see if it's for you first before trying to get getting the tools ahead of time before knowing the kind of artist you are and the kind of tools you want is bad for you too, because oftentimes they don't work the way you expect them to, and it can be very disappointing. I remember the first time I got my hands on Photoshop. Someone else's, I'm staying at their place, and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to try. And I'd seen all the incredible things Photoshop could do. And I was like, I can't wait to make those incredible things come from my work. And none of them did. They were bad. It was very bad. I didn't even know really how to use the stylus on a tablet or any of that. It worked out very poorly. And I realized that the software, no matter how powerful, doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to use it.
Exactly. And ultimately, I mean, this is kind of a tried and true sort of advice for how do you become better. But ultimately, it is practice. It is a honed skill. I don't know how many artists out there can relate with people coming up to them and saying, oh, I could never be as good as that. Or I could never do that. Not true.
You actually can. We didn't show up on this planet knowing how to draw. It's something that time was spent on. And there are so many people who are skilled at things I'm not skilled at because they spent time at it. And I really respect them for that.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, I could never. It's, oh, you put in the work.
In my youth, I spent hours drawing and playing with Transformers. And as an adult, I spend most of my time drawing and playing with Transformers. So nothing has really changed over the years.
Excellent. See, practice makes perfect.
It does. It does. I'm a firm believer of doing warm-up drawings, very much like athletes who stretch before doing strenuous events. I believe that artists need to stretch their creative muscles before they start doing something very complicated. A lot of times we jump in, we go, I'm going to finish that commission piece today, and just try to do the line art, and it just sucks, and you have to do it again. Doing sketches, reference sketches, life drawings, things like that help sort of warm up your brain, warm up your creative muscles in order for you to do the things that you need to do. So that's rule number one. Tools are not talent. Rule number two, and this is one that stings a little. Comparison is the enemy of creativity. There's nothing wrong with admiring another artist's talent or being objective about someone else's work. But comparing yourself to someone else can be detrimental to your creativity because comparison cuts two ways.
It's one of those things where, especially in a space where everyone else around you is going to want to compare you already. And I think anyone who's done any sort of art of any sort knows that, you're just sitting there minding your own business and someone rolls in and tells you, oh, this reminds me of somebody else. Or this looks exactly like a different artist.
So, your character reminds me of Sasuke from Naruto, even though it's not at all like Sasuke from Naruto.
People will come in and start to compare you anyway. So it is a fight, and I think it needs to be a very specific, purposeful fight to avoid comparing yourself and your work to other people. Because as long as you're doing that, it means you're looking at someone else's path instead of your own. One of the things that you get taught when you learn how to drive is you need to look at the road in front of you. If you're too busy looking at other things, other cars, where other people are driving, you drift out of your lane. And when you're driving, that's disastrous. When you're doing art, it's also disastrous, but in a different way. Everyone's journey is different. I'm sure you've heard that one already. But part of that is that if you're paying too much attention to someone else's journey, you don't see the path in front of you. You don't see the spaces where you're supposed to go. It makes you and your work distinctly you. And also, it can be very damaging. One of our friends, Sunny Strait, of all people, says that he doesn't like to compare that much because if he sees people that he's like, oh, my art is better than theirs, then he gets complacent and stops trying to push himself.
Yes.
And if he sees people and goes, oh, no, their art's better than mine, then he starts feeling bad and kind of like really discouraged, doesn't want to do it. And either way, it really slows down or even puts a halt to his own personal journey and his own personal improvement as an artist by looking at what other people are doing and comparing himself to them.
Yeah, and using the driving analogy, sure, you don't follow somebody else's path, right? Because that could lead you into trouble, but you also don't look behind you while you're driving either. Same with your creative journey.
Yeah, like it's great to see other artists as inspiration. It's great
Mhm.
to support other artists. It's great to cheer for them and see what they're up to. But comparing yourself, going, I'm not as good, or I'm better, or where do I stand next to them, is really really dangerous. And there's especially a danger of hanging your own self worth on it.
Mhm.
Of going, well, if my art isn't as good as theirs, then I'm not as good as them.
Yeah.
And it's a very bad path to go down. It's a very easy path to go down.
Mhm.
And a lot of outside voices are going to try to put you down that path. A lot of well meaning ones, too.
Mhm.
You know, friends, family, whatever. You go, well, why don't you do what so and so does? Or you remind me of this, so you should do the same thing, too. And, you know, I don't know how you want to handle it, but the idea is that even if they're well meaning, they might not necessarily know what's best for you.
Mhm.
And they might not necessarily understand what your journey is supposed to be. So, comparison is the enemy of creativity. It will stop you from finding the spaces that make you uniquely you.
Yeah. And comparison doesn't happen necessarily just from the outside. Sometimes the comparison is inward. It's an inward struggle, what we like to call imposter syndrome. For those who don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's that sneaking suspicion that you're just BSing your way through life and your abilities, and that maybe one day someone's going to figure out that you're a fraud. And let me tell you, I struggle with that every day.
I've got some great news about imposter syndrome, by the way.
Yeah.
Everyone's faking it. Imposter syndrome isn't necessarily about, like, a lot of people say, how do you overcome it? How do I finally become confident in myself? And we're human. There are going to be days when we're not confident in ourselves. That's just the nature of it. But the thing is that no one else is either. Everyone is faking it. And that's kind of the big secret.
Yeah.
That as much as we go and say, hey, here's my advice for you, this is just what I learned. These rules are things that I keep having to remind myself every day while I'm doing it too. And every leader out there, every artist, every writer who has their rules and their ideas and their suggestions is struggling with the same thing. There are still days where they're going to think, is this anything? Am I anything? And knowing that we're all just doing our best and making it up as we go has probably been the most comforting thing for me personally.
Absolutely. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, if a man can write a better book or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, though he build his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door. So that leads us to our next rule, rule number 3.
Rule number 3.
Part of staying in your own lane is following your own instincts and taking risks. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret, all right? Think about your favorite artist, your favorite professional artist, your favorite mangaka or animator. Each one of them started as an amateur. Nobody. Nothing to their name. The thing that defined them wasn't their tools, right? It wasn't that their abilities reminded them of somebody else. It was their unique vision, their own creative voice, and they took honest risks that paid off. Now, no matter how outlandish your idea may be or how fearful you are of your work being perceived by others, never be afraid to take that risk and follow through with it.
At some point in time, Sailor Moon was just someone's OC. And that's just the size of it. That, you know, we say OCs as if they're like different or dirty or whatever, but it's like, no, I love that.
There's some shame.
Yeah,
Almost
I don't know why there's
associated.
shame associated with that when it's like, no, that means that you are taking risks. You're putting yourself out there into these characters or these stories that you're writing, and you're writing something that hasn't been done before. You know, they say there's nothing new under the sun, and yes, but it hasn't been done by you yet. You know, it's sure maybe this story, maybe we've already had magical girls, or maybe we've already had superheroes or scrappy stories about kids trying their best in a world full of powers, but like not by you, not yet. And that's enough to matter. That's enough to be different. I think a lot of times it's easier to play it safe because we see that something has already been successful. So if we just emulate that, again, comparison, then we know that we're going to be okay. No one can come after you if you've already done something that's safe, that everyone accepts, that's good. And in terms of like getting practice, and if you're not ready sort of to put yourself out there, I'm not going to pressure you into it, but your version, your story, your risks and stuff are the things that make your art special.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes we try to fit ourselves into what people expect
Mm-hmm.
already out of the genre, out of the art, or something like that. And you lose a lot of it. And it makes it really disheartening to keep drawing
Mm-hmm.
because you're not drawing yourself anymore. You're drawing what people expect of you instead.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. When I first moved to Texas to become a voice actor, um, voice acting doesn't pay nearly as much as people think. So I had to make a lot of my living off of being an artist. And let me tell you, I was deathly afraid of what people thought about my art. The last thing I wanted people to think was, "Oh, this anime voice actor thinks he can draw anime now." Like I thought people were going to come for me for sure. So when I went public with commissions and doing things like that, I was afraid to share my art style. So what I did was I tried to pattern it off of uh, all of my favorite artists. I tried to emulate their styles and try to look as professional as possible. And boy, let me tell you, I got burnt out. My attempts to try to be something that I wasn't, to try to be more impressive than I actually was, led to me just anytime I got a request to do something or a commission to do something, I wouldn't think of it in terms of like, what would I do? I thought, how would the artists that I admire approach it? And I came to hate art for a good long time, where I didn't even want to draw anything. I didn't want to have to do this for a living. It was tough. And then one day I found an old sketchbook of mine just lying around, and I was paging through it, and it was the pre move to Texas era, and I was like, these drawings aren't great. They are objectively worse than where I am now, but it has spirit, it has life, and specifically, it's mine. And so that day I was just like, you know what, F it. If people don't like my art, that's their problem. I'm gonna draw what makes me happy. And honestly, I think it was the best thing that has happened to my art. And I'm actually kind of upset with myself for never taking that risk earlier in my life and in my art journey. But all that said, that's not a bad thing. Part of that is the journey, the art journey.
Learning yourself and who you are.
Which leads me to my next rule.
Ooh.
Let's say our next rule.
The next rule.
Woo!
Okay.
Rule number 4. Done is better than perfect.
I hate this rule though.
I am very guilty of this one.
Oh, this
So,
is tough.
I would like everyone in the room, and if you're at home,
Yeah.
feel free to do this
We
too.
see you in the chat too.
Say it with me. Done is better than perfect. Your turn.
Done is better than perfect.
I don't fully believe that. Try it one more time.
Done is better than perfect.
Ooh, that's
Okay.
good. All right, now turn to the person next to you, and in the highest pitch voice possible, say done is better than perfect. Ready, go.
Oh man. Do you even consider directing?
Hey, maybe. Thank you. You made my weekend here at
Thank
Animefest.
you.
Thank you very much.
Excellent
I
work.
appreciate that.
Done is
Oh.
better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. Da Vinci is often credited in saying, art is never finished, merely abandoned.
So here's the thing. There's no such thing as perfect. I know.
What?
I know, right? Spoiler alert. There is no such thing as perfect. So if you're gonna keep chasing perfection, you are unfortunately never going to reach it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of those things where, as an artist, as a person, oftentimes you want to be better every day. You want to find ways to improve yourself, to chase perfection, but you have to understand that it is an unattainable goal that you're chasing. And at some point in time, you just have to call your work done. And we watch a lot of anime. I don't know if anyone here has heard of anime before. I know, right? It's very niche. I don't think a lot of people know anime. But oftentimes when you watch anime, sometimes you see something that's like, oh, well, this could have been drawn better if they had more time. And honestly, I wish they did. You know, situation for animators in Japan is not great. They should be given way more money and way more time. But the thing is that it's still here in front of you and you get to watch it. And it's one of those things, it's like, I'm happy that I still get to see it. I'm happy that it exists, that this story and this image is in front of me. And at no point in time am I going to blame the artist for the lack of time or budget or attention that they were given. They created something and I'm grateful for it. I'm not mad at them. I'm not going, well, you should have done it better. Sending this episode back. Because it is still special. It's still something real and tangible that I can see. And it's so easy to look at your stuff and go, I could do this better. I could be better than this.
Yep. In fact,
but it's not necessarily something you have to do.
I'll give you an example. Our webcomic, Ties That Bind. We started this project well over a decade ago. And over those years, it has been through 3 iterations. We didn't move past chapter 1 3 times. That means I drew chapter 1 3 times. You want to know why? If you know it, sing it with me. I know, but I can do better now. Does that sound familiar? And it was that mentality that actually put our comic on hiatus in 2014 because I thought, you know, we've gotten this far, but I want to get better first. Like, I'm not satisfied with where my art is, so I want to get better first, and then I'll come back to it. And what that meant was that I was not going to touch that comic for the next 3 years. And by doing so, I punished all of our readers by simply not following through. But in 2017, I decided enough was enough. I wasn't going to make any excuses for myself, and that there was a story we wanted to share. And I was tired of making excuses for it. So I took all of the pages that we did and compiled them into one book and printed them into an actual physical book to force myself to say, hey, this is an official thing that you're putting out into the world. You can't go back.
You can't go back now. It's too late. It's
I
out
held
there.
myself hostage. Spent months editing, polishing, and formatting these existing pages into a tangible graphic novel. If you could put that up, please.
Yeah.
Now, is it perfect? No. Is it exactly how I wanted it to be? No. In fact, sometimes when I page through it, I go, you dummy, you forgot to do something.
I could do this better now.
But it's done.
It is.
It's done. And now I can take pride in knowing that I set a goal for myself and completed it. It's on Amazon now. It's available in physical form. We've been bringing it to conventions and people have been supporting it and liking it. And that sort of satisfaction, that sort of validation, not only from others, but from myself, has been extremely helpful in my creative journey. It has encouraged us to do other things, to keep creating, to start new projects, and to see those projects through. And I'm happy to say the story is still in progress.
Still going.
Our schedule got a little delayed due to the demic, but it is still going, and I'm very proud to say that. Speaking of which, if you do like our artwork, if you like what you've seen so far, please feel free to follow us on Patreon.
We got Patreon at Pineapple Studio. We have a Patreon link and everything. Love it.
Yep.
You will find advanced pages of this comic, along with a lot of other things, a lot of our behind the scenes processes about like how we do art and things like that. Some previews and like a lot of early access advanced stuff
Behind
as
the
well.
scenes.
A lot of wallpaper for your desktop. If you like to put pretty things on your desktop, we got plenty of wallpaper. And then occasionally we even post like pics of food that we make because we like to cook. Well, I like to bake. He likes to cook. We get a lot of food done.
Which leads me to our final rule. Self-care.
Okay, oh boy.
I know there's a stigma amongst us artists that part of the art life involves all-nighters and long hours and forgetting to sleep and forgetting to eat and hustling and trying to take the lowest price because we're afraid we're never going to get hired again with the shortest deadlines. Honestly, this has probably more to do with the fact that as artists, we're really bad at managing our time, so we need deadlines. But the truth is, we all do our best work when we're healthy. If you're not healthy, if you're not feeling good, probably not going to put out very good work. Chances are. I'm no expert, but I can guess. If you start to feel strained, perhaps, maybe, and this is just a suggestion, maybe it's time to take a break.
Take a break. It's okay. You have our permission. Like right now, I give you permission to take a break.
Do you need some water? Go get some water. Do you need to use the restroom? Go use the restroom. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, do a little stretch.
You're worth it.
All right, someone clip this and play it back anytime you need it.
We're here for you. We got your back. But this doesn't just apply to your physical health. That being said, the picture in the slide, just for reference, if you had seen me in around 2019, I had a cast on.
Yeah.
I drew so much without taking breaks, and because I stacked all of my projects with the same deadlines all around the same time, I got tendonitis. Really bad tendonitis. Doctor first said it was only going to be 2 weeks. Then it moved to 2 months. It stretched to about half a year to three-fourths of a year. Either way, and I still deal with it today because of that stupid decision that one time. Still dealing with it. My wrist has not been the same since. So truly, there is a time limit, a deadline on your body if you do not treat it well. It's not good. But self-care doesn't just extend to your physical body. It also applies to your emotions as well. If you're going through a lot of mental stress, don't force it. Overworking yourself will only hurt will hurt your work for sure. But more importantly, overworking yourself is going to hurt you. I'm going to use this little moment to just take a slight tangent and get up on a small soapbox, like a hotel-sized soapbox.
Beautiful.
Very small. But I'm just going to say this. Don't fall for hustle culture. Hustle culture is a scam.
It's a scam. Don't do it.
Hustle culture is going to ask you to burn yourself out for the least amount of compensation. Do not fall for it. It's important to know your worth, and more specifically, know when to say no. It's okay to say no. You are not, after all, what you make. Don't forget to take breaks, eat, sleep, shower regularly. I'm sure you hear that a lot at the conventions.
Oh, no. You said, I hear that. I'm like, yeah, I do.
That's true. And don't forget to reward yourself. When you finish a piece, if you're proud of it, treat yourself to a nice little drink, a coffee, or buy that thing that you've been holding off on. Even if it's just a little bit, reward yourself for reaching your goals. Now, since you've been so great, we'll let you in on our super secret 6th rule of art that we follow.
There's a 6th rule of art?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
All right. Don't tell anyone. But
this is just between us.
Here it is. There are no rules. Got you. We got you, suckers. There are no rules.
Pranked. What? Wait, what?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just got so caught up in the emotion and the excitement of it all. I just went along with it.
The cool thing about the art world is that it's filled with guidelines that will help you improve your abilities and to reach your goals. But all of those guidelines are meant to be bent to your specs. Your specs. Most important thing is that you draw and create for yourself. There is no point in creating if it doesn't make you happy first and foremost.
Yeah, these rules are meant to help you because they help us.
Mhm.
If they don't, if they make things harder or worse,
Mhm.
then don't.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where each of us, again, because each of us has a different journey, sometimes how you get there, how you approach it, what helps you get through is going to be different. And it's important to pay attention very closely to yourself and your own needs and your own wants, honestly, to make sure that you're using these guidelines to take care of yourself, but also not clicking in so hard into them that it's actually making things worse for you.
Mhm. All right. So, learn the basics, avoid comparison, trust your instincts, know when to step away from a piece, take care of yourself, and ultimately share your ideas with the world.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
that being said, does anyone have any questions?
Yes. If you'd like to ask questions and you're in the room, please step up to the purple mic.
Mhm.
We also will be checking our Twitter to see. So if you tweet us at Hello Painapple,
We'll also be checking the
yes,
chat
and
online.
checking chat. So I see a question. Yes, hello.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I read like webcomics, like on Webtoons, and I just wanted to ask if y'all ever experienced this. So oftentimes, um, if it's like a long-term piece, often you'll see like a style change, whether it like improves or maybe just like the quality might improve. Do you ever experience that when y'all work on pieces yourselves? And by extension, how do you handle a style change? Or do you just try to keep to the original in the beginning?
That's a good question.
I think it would depend on what you're trying to go for. I typically just sort of roll with it. But as mentioned at the start of the panel, I'm very seat of your pants sort of, woo! He's the planner. But I think that, and one of the things about like the How Art comic, we could keep going, oh, I can do it better now. It's actually very encouraging when you see that because it's proof that you're getting better. Instead of being like, oh, I can't believe I was so bad then, it's, oh my goodness, I'm closer now to who I want to be, to the artist I want to be, whether it's just improving your art or even your style changing because you just want to try new things or do something else. And so I typically tend to embrace it because I feel like it represents another step in the journey to becoming the artist that I want to be. I know that if you're trying to like keep a certain mood or a look for a piece, you kind of have to like click into it a little bit, but I think, especially for something like webtoons, because they're so oftentimes they're very long running and can go for a while, that I would say change with your art, and I think the readers will actually love it.
Yeah.
Longtime readers especially be like, well, I was there in the beginning when it looked like this, and they'll actually be really proud of the fact that they were there for all the changes.
Yeah, I think it's natural. Every artist evolves with their style, their story. That just happens. You take any sort of long-running manga that you have, take the last volume and take the first volume and compare them. They're going to
So
look
different.
completely different. Even if the style is similar, you're going to notice that some of it is reflected based on the time. Something that was started in the 90s is going to look like something that came from the 90s, and if it lasted all the way into the 2000s, it's going to take on a more modern look. That's just how that works. Artists simply evolve. If you are worried about consistency, what I do is I draw character sheets for my characters so that I can always reference like, hey, I know I'm starting to stray from what I originally did if I specifically don't want to do that. However, like we stated with Ties That Bind, this has been a series we've been working on for over 10 years now. One of my favorite excuses to change things is to just say, hey, next chapter, their outfit gets ruined, so they get a new one. Because I don't want to draw this old one anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
15 minutes. Thank you.
I can't count and I can't
you.
read. You gotta use a different thing next time.
Numbers are hard. I see a question in the chat about pulling inspiration from things that make one happy and not just sad. Which is actually interesting because I tell this story a lot at this panel and kind of didn't today. The first fanfic I ever wrote, I was inspired by something that made me sad
Mhm.
because it made me so deeply, unbearably sad that I refused to accept it.
Yeah.
And it was just like listen, it's cute little animals, and one of them like wound up sad. So I wrote this whole book, like I stapled it together. It was written in crayon. I'm 7, about the sad animal who walked a little further and found a thing that made them happy. Yay, we've done it! Because in my heart and in my mind, I needed it to turn out better. And so oftentimes, yes, there are things that are very happy that I draw inspiration from, but sometimes things that make me sad are good inspirations for happiness and for joy, to say, well, I don't like what happened. What is the world that I wish existed? And a lot of the things I write are about like the world that I wish I could see around me, and
Yeah.
the things that I want, and the things I want for my friends and the people who I love and the people around me. And oftentimes I'll take that as my fuel and my inspiration. So instead of creating something sad, I'll be like, let's make this more, what could be done.
Mhm.
So yeah. Did we have any other questions?
Yeah, I believe I saw something in the chat about arm injuries, I believe it was.
Oh yeah, good
Um,
question.
So one thing that I learned, and I'll post this again on my socials later today. But taking breaks a lot when you're drawing. Technically, as an artist, to avoid strain, you should take breaks. And I know this is gonna sound just mind-blowingly weird. Every 10 minutes, you should take a break and stretch. Now, I'm bad at that, and I don't expect anyone else to be good at that at all. Because sometimes when you're in the zone, it's like trying to drop something and just be like, I'm going to take a break. It just feels wrong. But sometimes when I know it's going to be a strenuous piece, I set timers for myself on my phone, and then I have that timer repeat. Maybe not every 10 minutes, but like every half an hour to an hour is when I use those. But using stretches, making sure that all the muscles don't tense up. Also, doing wrist exercises. I know it's weird, but lifting weights like this strengthens your wrist. The thing that my doctor told me, and remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm just quoting what my doctor said. He said that one of the reasons why you get those wrist injuries is because there's not a lot of musculature here to support the tendons. Your hand is doing all of the work, and there's nothing for it to be supported with. So you need to strengthen these muscles so that your tendons aren't the things taking the brunt of it. So
Actual exercise, unfortunately.
yeah. And I believe we had another question here in the chat. Let's see. How do you know when you are done?
Ooh, good question.
Is it a feeling?
This is a great question. I think this is why people like producers and sometimes directors exist, is because oftentimes you can't, or it's hard to know when you're done, and it's great to have an outsider go, you're done. Trust me, that's good enough. You're done.
It's kind of why I work in a team. Yeah.
And if you have friends or other artists that you can trust and like share your work or your writing or whatever with, it really does help to have someone else be there and be like, hey, I think you're done. But otherwise, I would say that if you're taking breaks, sometimes take more than like a 10-minute break and just sort of walk away, breathe, and come back with new eyes. And that sort of like gives you a sense of like, all right, now let me look at this. Is this a piece that if someone else posted it, I wouldn't judge them?
Yeah.
Like,
when I finish a piece, I always make sure that my deadlines have at least one more day allocated for me to finish the piece and then step away for a day and then come back to it. To make sure that I didn't miss anything or I was overthinking one spot and didn't think about another part of the drawing. For me, my marker for when I am done or I need to be done is when I start getting into ruts. When I start going into like a feature creep and start like changing one thing and going back and editing that and then being like, wait, no, now something else is messed up. There are little markers of like the kind of control freak in me wanting to perfect it, where I have to recognize that and go, you need to stop.
Yeah.
It's done. Just
It's
stop.
done. It's done.
It is
Stop.
becoming feature creep now.
It's also like you can find ways to practice finding when you're done. It's something we do on a weekly basis, actually. So we stream on Twitch every Friday where we take prompts and draw based on those. And any one of those prompts could take the whole week if we wanted to. We could be like, this is so good. I'm in it. I'm going to dive in. But, with a limited amount of time, you got to be like, how much do I do before I've fulfilled what the prompt asked me to do? A lot of artists will like set timers and practice with those and just be like, at the end of the timer, how much did you get? How are you start learning shortcuts to take, or what's more important when you're doing a piece to get the biggest strokes done first, so that everything else is add detail.
Yep.
And so how to know when you're done, of course, is hard, but I think after a while, if you're just in the fiddly bits and you're not really satisfied with any of the changes you're making, that's at least a sign to step back and leave it alone for some time.
Yeah. We'll take one last question from the chat, or unless anyone else has a question. It says, my kids are artistic. Anything you'd wish your parents had done to help you growing up?
Oh, interesting.
I will say, the greatest thing that my parents ever did for my art was to support it, to provide me with art supplies, to encourage my art, to just never tear me down in my desire to become an artist. In that story that I said earlier about when I was there drawing in preschool, and I looked up and I just saw them waiting. That was one of the kindest things they could have done, because they didn't take me away from it. They actually waited. I know that everyone was gone and the teacher was staying along, but the fact that the three of those people in that moment chose to invest in that, let me do a deep dive into something that I was clearly interested in, meant the world to me, to the point that I still remember it. It is a memorable point, a pivotal point in my childhood. So I'd say be present,
Yeah, support them. Tell them you like it. Tell them it makes you happy. It's one of those things where we want validation, and the easiest form of validation is to say, oh, it's good. But then we start applying values to good. Like, am I a better artist? Am I a worse artist? How do I improve? And it's more important, I think, art is about evoking emotion.
Yep.
And so to let them know that the feelings that they put into their art, you understand and feel them, probably would mean a lot. I did see another question in the panel room, I think. So if you want to come to the purple mic and ask.
Hello. My question was, so I just had my break. I was burnt out and I can't find any inspiration. So what can you do to just get inspiration? Because I can't it's not coming out.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I am extremely sorry to hear that, and you have my deepest empathies. The truth of the matter is, I can't give you any sort of advice on that. It's gonna take time. You're gonna have to find that for yourself. You're gonna have to find that on your journey. But the best thing you can do is to not force it.
Be good to yourself. Try things that you've never done before. We were talking the other night and talking about like, how do you get back into doing good things? And part of it is do bad things, do crappy things. Like go back to stick figures if it helps.
Knit.
Yeah, knit. Try other types of art to see what sort of sparks things inside of you, and be incredibly patient with yourself. There is more art inside of you that is ready to be made, but it will come at your pace. Don't force it. And I think also being able to remember, like go back and say, what actually excited you? It doesn't matter if it's cringe. It doesn't matter if it's embarrassing. Just the silly little things that made you want to do art in the first place.
What made you love it to begin with?
Yeah.
Fall in love with it again. Just find ways to do
Lean
that.
back towards that. And thank you for your question.
We appreciate that.
We're cheering for you.
All right.
All right, we got 5 minutes left.
We got 5 minutes left.
So we have an announcement.
All right.
Yay!
So we would like to show you guys our newest project. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. So picture this. It's opening night of a stage play. None of the lead actors have ever seen the script. And it is up to the director to run around and fill in all the bits while trying to convince the actors that they know what the story is and they have to perform.
Also, all the actors have dice.
Yes. Turns out we're playing D&D. Oh, no. We have been recording with some friends of ours, a D&D series called, oh, goodness.
Well, yeah.
I gotta take a deep breath. Sudden Death and Sudden Life, reborn as a level 1 character in a popular TTRPG, and now I have to defeat the Demon Lord?
Hey!
Nailed it!
You did it.
Nailed it. Much like its name, it is an isekai series with a bunch of people playing characters who have been surprisingly reborn into a fantasy D&D-esque world. And did you want to say anything before?
No, let's
and
roll
we
the
have
clip.
a little teeny clip that we want to show you for our, I guess, world premiere. So please enjoy. I am going to have to kill you now.
No, thank you. What?
No. I misspoke. Not kill is a strong word. The truth is that you are already dead. You died in your former lives, and what I'm doing is I will simply return you to that state.
So, not killing us, but returning us to killed states?
Yes, exactly. I'm so happy you understand. You're a fast learner. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we talk about this?
Jill pulls out this sort of like big crystal. It's got wires around it, and you can see a light glowing inside. And she tells you, so once I unleash the spell that I'm holding inside of here, it will undo the summoning that my acolyte has just performed and send you back. So very, very sorry for the inconvenience. Didn't mean for it to happen. Anyway,
Is there any way we could possibly, negotiate? Have a say in it?
Yeah.
Negotiate what exactly?
The not
Not-
die? Yes,
Yeah.
that.
Well, you're from another world. I'm just sending you back.
There's no way you can put us, like, a few minutes before that happened?
No, I'm afraid sort of the physics and the magic and the metaphysics of time travel are still very, very difficult. So no, you'd be exactly where you left off.
Well, perhaps it would help to know that I am the chosen one. Chosen by the god of light.
By whom?
The god of light.
Which god? What's their name?
I didn't...
Can I roll
Ray,
for
go ahead and roll
memory?
religion.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, you bad old man. You have a 0 to your religion and you're a cleric. Why is that? Okay. That is a 9.
A 9.
A good 9,
Excellent.
though. Like a really good 9.
Solid.
It's a good 9. That's a good,
Yeah.
solid 9. Oh, thank you.
And that's the show.
Yeah, that's the whole show. Oh wait, no, just kidding. We've got a lot more hours worth, in fact. We do have to clear out for the next panel. Thank you so much for your patience and for being here. Follow us on Twitter and Insta, etc. at Hello Painapple for more information about that. And thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate your time.
And shout out to Animefest for having us and allowing us to do
Yes.
this remotely. We love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.